Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode 156 today for the Austrian Grand Prix in Season 8. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check the one out before you see this one. Quite an important one at Paul Ricard, because it really meant quite a lot for the championship, so spoiler alert, it was a tough old time for us. As a team especially, it was a bit of a disaster really, because Leclerc definitely could have won that Grand Prix, should have won that Grand Prix. He ended up below me, and Alonso somehow ended up winning that Grand Prix, even though at the start of that race I really felt strongly that he wasn't going to, and so the points tally is grown for him, and so it's desperate times really. We have to really start making a move and start cutting away at his championship lead. You know, if he gets more points on us today, he might creep into the 40-point mark ahead of us, which will not be great for us as we approach nearly the halfway through point of the season. So we head into Austria then, Saturday qualifying, overcast conditions because there's some rain to come at the end of Saturday, and there might be some forecast for rain also on Sunday, so we'll have to watch out for that. But for now, we're on the fastest tyre available, the ultra soft tyres, right now in the dry, and trying to get a lap time in early before that rain comes. Didn't want to kind of risk it at all really, and obviously, logically speaking, if the rain is coming, this will be probably the fastest point of the circuit and the track at the moment, as it's obviously getting colder and colder as the clouds form over. So we go across the line then, pretty decent lap I felt, and it was provisional fastest at the time, but obviously I was the first kind of top car to actually set a time there at the very start of this session. So as we move on then to our second flying lap, we're down to second place, then Hamilton on provisional pole, then Leclerc is close behind in third place. No Fernando Alonso though near the top four, so that's good for me, and good to see once again that Hamilton is the Renault that's up there rather than Alonso. Across the line though, you can see for our second flying lap, the rain is there. If you look closely at the halo, you can see the little dot coming off there, and so the rain is starting to fall, and so the track is going to be slower. Obviously, we on the top right, you can see we go red, and we don't improve our second time, and so that is going to be it for pretty much everyone setting their times. And so in the end of it, Hamilton will be on pole. Gasly came out of nowhere though to set a second place time, so I thought that was a bit weird because the rain was coming down. He set that time then, but you know, fair enough. I guess maybe if the Red Bull just had that much pace in the kind of damp conditions, fair play. So he locks out the front row then with Hamilton. We're in all second row then with Alfa Romeo and myself and Leclerc, but good to see Alonso way down there with not a great qualifying session for him in P8, so that's exactly what we need. But I thought, like I said last episode, I thought it was in the bag that Leclerc would win the Grand Prix and Alonso wouldn't be getting first place, but what you know, it happened. So I'm not going to take anything for granted. We need to make sure we attack this Grand Prix and make sure we make the most of this opportunity now of being already ahead of Alonso by a few positions, and we need to make sure we maybe try and move forward and attack Gasly and Hamilton if we have the pace in the race, and really make sure we make the most of it. So let's go to the grid then and get going for Sunday.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg, and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship, except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of Turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the engineer. That was a great podium in the last race, so can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
So let's have a look at the starting grid of the Austrian Grand Prix for Season 8 of my F1 2018 career mode here. So on pole position is Lewis Hamilton in his Renault, and in second place alongside him is the reigning world champion Pierre Gasly in the Red Bull Honda. In third place is myself with my teammate Charles Leclerc in P4 for all second row of Alfa Romeo Racing, with Max Verstappen and Nico Hülkenberg to make a next row of all Mercedes. Then you've got Sergei Sorokin, Fernando Alonso, Dan Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel to round out the top 10. Van Dorn, Sainz, Ocon and Grosjean next, with Brendan Hartley and Sergio Perez down in P15 and 16. Valtteri Bottas in 17th and Lance Stroll in 18th. Kimi Raikkonen and Magnussen round the grid for the Austrian Grand Prix. Right, so like I said, we're in P3 and we need to make the most of it with Fernando Alonso down in P8 here today at the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. The strategies today are either a one-stop or a two-stop, but you can see there on the weather forecast, there is some rain for the end of the Grand Prix. So I would say we're going to choose the two-stop and swap these tyres around and go from the Ultras to the Super Softs and leave ourselves open for a second slick tyre pit stop onto the Ultras, or going straight onto the Inters if we can stretch those Super Softs all the way to that wet period. It looks like the indicator says it should come towards the last final stint, so that might be quite close on that last pit stop. But here we go then, getting ready to 5 red lights for the Austrian Grand Prix here. A very crucial round for our championship momentum as we go to 5 red lights and we're out and it's underway. And that's a great start there from Gasly and myself, actually a slow one for the poleman Hamilton. Into turn 1 though, Leclerc makes a bit of a dive to the inside. You can just about see his front wing there, was in the bottom right corner. Gasly meanwhile is still hounding Hamilton right up his gearbox there, and Leclerc has pulled alongside us. It's 2 by 2. Hamilton defends to the inside of Gasly. I'm defending to the inside of Leclerc there. My teammate is really not making life easy for me in a race where on lap 1 I was hoping to attack the 2 ahead of me rather than defend my teammate from behind. But there you go, Leclerc is actually ahead of me slightly now, and he's fully ahead of me now as we enter the heart of Sector 2. And Gasly's still having a good go at Hamilton. Leclerc is pulling fully alongside us. We're on the outside, but we have a good run and good momentum there. Leclerc backs out there quite easily actually in the end, and we maintain that P3. Gasly unable to get Hamilton though, so the Renault still leads the way. We have a little bit of a look on the left hand side, doesn't work out in the end. The swing of momentum brings our car back into play just right behind Gasly's gearbox, and instead we're sniffing around on the last corner trying to maybe suss out any kind of place. Right now at the moment I feel like pushing Gasly through that last corner there, so hopefully he doesn't hold me up too much, as obviously Hamilton sets the purple time, being the first one across the line in lap 1. But here we go for a dive around the outside. It's a nice little move there, second phase of turn 1. We just about made that. I was initially a little bit hesitant to make that move, but we're trying it now as we go up the hill then on the left hand side. Leclerc right up there as well, trying to make some moves, and we have to be very careful. Leclerc is on my inside there, and he's going to once again stick his nose in and get in the middle of my fight there. So I thought I was going to be battling Gasly, and then out of nowhere, look at the speed he's got. How has he got that much speed there? I'm running Rich Mix and Hot Lap mode, and he's just got an extra bit of boost there. I don't know if he's running an extra low downforce setup. He must be, because he's got a lightning quick car compared to myself off that corner. And so Leclerc now is up into P3. We're down to P4. And so this lap 1 continues on to lap 2, being very chaotic, very action-packed, as we continue to chase Leclerc. We've got the 2 Mercedes behind us, then Sergio Sorokin in the Toro Rosso, then Alonso is still down there in what looks to be about P8 or P7 at least, so that's good to see at least that Alonso hasn't made up a heap of time and position. So, you know, the battling with Leclerc, I can kind of let it slide a little bit, but in theory, ideally, I want to kind of get past these 2 and try and chase after Hamilton for P1, but Leclerc tried a move on Gasly, didn't work out, so both of us looks like we can't get past this Red Bull for now, but we've now both got DRS. Leclerc waltzes past him on the left hand side. We're going to do the same on the right hand side there, and Gasly pretty much gets swamped from either side, and it is going to be a move finally booked in, and it's going to be a 2-3 now for the Alfa Romeo Racing boys here in this team. So good stuff there, and I guess I've got to thank Leclerc a little bit for helping me a little bit through there, because he obviously maybe unsettled Gasly a little bit, looking around everywhere on circuit, allowed me to slip by quite easily for P3. But now can we try and slip by him and get up into P2 and use that clean air that's behind Hamilton to try and chase after him? Here we go with DRS and move on the outside there. Very fine margins on the right hand side there, but we make it work, and we are up into P2. Leclerc though, will he come back? We have to watch out for it there. We stick to the right hand side with DRS open. Leclerc's going to pull to the left. We go very defensive there indeed, and we're going to have to try and squeeze Leclerc out there on the entry and exit of the apex. We do so successfully, and I think now this is the time where we can get away a little bit. We can just survive this next half a lap there as we look on, still behind us, a little bit wary. Leclerc's got DRS there, you can see, still looking behind, a little bit worried, but we do make it through. We're still P2 now. Sector 2 I'm pretty good, so let's try and get away and chase after this man then, Hamilton, as we move on to lap 7, and we are chasing after the lead man, and we've gotten away from our teammate. On the minimap you can see Leclerc's very close to Gasly on the minimap, so he's now fending off the Frenchman in the Red Bull for P3. Now that leaves me a lot of free time and free air to chase after our fellow countryman Lewis Hamilton, the man who's doing a much better job in the Renault lately, actually. Obviously, perfect timing really for me that Hamilton stepped up in the last few qualifying sessions and has been challenging for pole position. Obviously, it didn't help me too much last time that Alonso ended up being the man in the lead in the Renault. But this time, no Alonso in sight, and we have a very good chance maybe at getting into the race lead here in the first third of the Grand Prix. We're getting very close with DRS. You can see the rear flap shuts as we enter the brake zone for turn 2, taking a very tight apex compared to Hamilton, who is flustered a little bit. I can sense he's wary that I'm there, and so we're going to pull a move to the left-hand side there, so the outside line for the hairpin as we enter Sector 1, enter Sector 2. Hamilton, though, goes quite late on the brakes. I go early on purpose to get this beautiful little switchback line there, plant the power a little bit earlier than him, open DRS, overtake mode on ERS, and Rich Mix also flowing around. We go defensive once again to the end of the back straight. Hamilton does have a look around the outside, so we do have to try and squeeze him out there. You can see we get very close with our rear end there to his car, but he backs off there, and we're just about aggressive enough to get that P1 and maintain it there. And so now we are going to try and push away and maintain this lead. We do so, but you can see Hamilton there in second place is keeping me pretty honest there as we move on through the laps of this first stint in this Grand Prix. Leclerc in third place then, still doing a good job to be ahead of Pierre Gasly, so a nice 1-3 right now for the Alfa Romeo Racing team. But then in P5 you can see there is Fernando Alonso. He's got past Sorokin, he's got past the two Mercedes cars, and he's now in clean air trying to chase after the top four. So Alonso now is well within a chance of, closing up to us if we're not careful, so we have to watch out for that and try and control this entire situation. Meanwhile, you've got Sorokin battling Carlos Sainz in the second Red Bull Honda. We now move on to lap 11. The tyre wear starting to kick in there because he saw it went quite wide and deep into that right-hander, nearly cleanly off circuit there with a lock-up. So I've signalled to box in this lap. I don't think the Ultra's going to go for much longer. It is already getting quite overcast, so my engineer's been saying the rain's coming in about 10 minutes time, so maybe a little bit earlier than I wanted to, but I can't personally continue on these tyres. It looks like the AI, Hamilton and Leclerc, my teammate, are looking okay on those Ultras, but I'm struggling on these tyres compared to them, so we're going to come in a little bit earlier maybe than them, and I wanted to ideally, but it's just for the sake of making sure we get a good undercut and maintain the lead where we get to the point where it's going to start to rain. And actually looks like Leclerc has unfortunately come in on the same lap as me, so unfortunate double stack that I didn't plan for, but Leclerc's going to have to wait a little bit there and then come in. So I delayed my pit stop a little bit there. I switched up the lap I was going to come in then, so unfortunately that Leclerc just kind of got caught up in it. Nothing more I could really do really apart from just, say sorry basically right now. Can't dwell on it too much now. We have to get a move on then and get focused up as we try and close up on Carlos Sainz, and a bit of traffic here that's continuing on a little bit longer onto lap 13. Quite long actually indeed on old soft tyres as Sainz goes for a move down to the inside. Some nice battling to see ahead of us then between Sainz and Hulkenberg, the two former Renault teammates from this career mode in earlier seasons. We open up DRS and we're going to have to try and make some moves here because these guys obviously don't have blue flags. They can fight for position. They're just out of sync of the pit stops here, so I've got to try and do it properly. So we've got DRS second bite of the cherry. Then Hulkenberg also does have DRS though, so that Merc is pretty okay in a straight line, you can clearly see. So we have to try and wait in the corners where we have a little bit of an advantage in terms of our chassis and the aero we've got. But at the same time, frustrating not to get past him on that straight because this definitely is holding us up a little bit. And I can't afford to lose too much time because I don't know how much pace Hamilton and the rest of them had at the top flight on the Ultras. So let's go and try and make a move on the outside there. Very late dive there and just spotting it that we had a bit of a gap there. But now on the bottom right, bit of a disaster now. A different kind. We've got a DRS failure there. So thankfully my engineer tells me we've got the DRS flap shut. So that's going to be a major issue, but still is not going to help us on this very overtaking mission that we've got. Try and get past all these kind of obstacles and cars that are going slower on different kind of strategies. We now go down the inside of Carlos Sainz for a big dive to turn 1. Very awkward because you never really want to go to the inside of turn 1 there because it's such a sharp 90-degree corner. And so we just about make that, and now we're going to chase after the other Mercedes car of Max Verstappen here in P3. So at the moment I can't quite tell where everyone is. I think Hamilton's still staying out there then, and as well as Fernando Alonso. I think Leclerc's come in, is a little bit further behind, of course. He came in with us on the same lap, so I don't know where he is right now on the minimap. I want to try and see. I think he's just ahead of a Toro Rosso there and closing up to Carlos Sainz right now, so he hasn't lost too much time then in that kind of double stack basically with me. But we close up to Verstappen. We have the same problem we had with Hulkenberg. I couldn't close up to him in the straight. That Mercedes car is actually okay, they've got a pretty decent engine these days back in this career mode. They've recovered all that kind of lack of power they had in previous seasons, and instead we have to try and make a nice move on the outside of Verstappen, the double left-hander. It is a very nice move and we're up into P2 now, and the only man left on circuit then is Hamilton. So Alonso's also coming for his pit stop. We get a bit of a screen freeze there, so that was a little bit of a worry as I nearly chucked the car on the left-hand side because the screen freeze was quite deadly and lasted quite long there. Quite bad to note, you know, so far into the game cycle, still getting those bad screen freezes. But we move on into the next lap 16, 20 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and up into first place then, thankfully. Leclerc then is up into P3, so we move on a few more laps then into the very overcast period of the race now. You can see it's looking very, very gloomy and depressing at the moment here around Austria, but Leclerc is closing up, so that's a sign of celebration because here he goes for a big old dive there, the very classic Charles Leclerc dive in F1 2018 career mode here in the past 2 seasons now, and Leclerc is going to jostle Hamilton for position, get up into P2, cut across him there, and so it's going to be a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo Racing. So Leclerc's done really well to recover from that double stack pit stop that didn't want to happen, but it happened in the end, and he can't do much about it, and he's taken it into his own hands and he's battled back very nicely and made it a 1-2 then. Hamilton down to P3, Gasly P4, and I assume Alonso still in P5, but for now we're doing a great job then on these super softs, pushing on in the lead, trying to control this Grand Prix. But lap 19, it is starting to get a little bit wet there. You can see, if you look close enough on the halo, you can see the droplets, you know, streaming across the halo and the top of the chassis there, and you can see turn 1 wasn't too great for me, a little bit wide on the entry there, so it is getting a little bit slippery, but for now my engineer says apparently it's still not enough for intermediate, so we're just continuing on now, trundling along and trying to match the cars around us and not trying to go a little bit too early. But by the time we get to lap 20, I just think, you know what, it's too much for me, I need to come in. If my engineer says no, I gotta say yes, I gotta ignore him on this case because I'm just losing grip and losing time and losing confidence in the car, and the last thing I want to do is slam the car into the barriers by putting on the power a bit too early, or, you know, getting a bit too hot on the colour, you know, into a brake zone in the damp conditions. So we come in then for the intermediates now, lap 21. We've got, 15 laps left in the Grand Prix there on these inters. They should go the distance, they should be fine, but now is the question mark of, have I gone too early, have I gone too late, has everyone else gone too late? Let's see if we can try and gain some time on people and do some overtaking. At the moment, I can't lie, it looks a little bit dry in Sector 1, but the feeling is definitely kind of almost the same. But as we enter Sector 2, going very, very wide, and we just narrowly missed the grass there, so I'm feeling a little bit like Jenson Button back in 2010, going a little bit too early onto a crossover onto the other set of tyres and nearly putting it off into the gravel trap there. So lucky to come out unscathed, but at this point I was sweating a little bit in the cockpit, thinking, have I made a mistake here? As we move on to lap 22 though, Alonso's made a pit stop, we're ahead of him, so I was perked up a little bit. At least we're ahead of our rival Alonso there, still in this Grand Prix, but you can see a distinct lack of grip for me. And so at this stage I was thinking, I've blown it, haven't I? Leclerc and Hamilton are going to be ahead of me now. I've lost too much time surely on this outlap here, but little did I know that Leclerc and Hamilton were probably struggling even more than I was, because if we come through now to the end of that lap, lap 22, my teammate is in, Leclerc is in. You can see how much I'm wobbling about on these inters, so I can only imagine how much Leclerc and Hamilton wobbling about. I get another screen freeze in the exact same position there, so that makes me go off circuit a little bit, so thank you very much, Cody's, for that. In the same exact spot the screen freeze occurs, but nevertheless we continue on then, soldier on, lap 23, and we get past Leclerc and Hamilton. We're still in P1 to my amazement there, so thankfully the mistakes and the gamble I made for going a little bit earlier paid off, and we've actually gained a little bit of time on Leclerc, actually quite a lot of time there on the mini-map you can see, and so it's still a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo Racing. That's good to see, and so now we go on and try and just get through to the end of this Grand Prix. Meanwhile, as we go through the laps then, looking at the pecking order, you've got Alonso hounding Gasly then for that P4 slot, so Alonso is trying to do his best to get as many points as he can to limit the damage that will occur, and actually we've got a retirement there from a Williams car, and that was very close to Fernando Alonso having a DNF there. We look at our on-board shot there, and that is so fine of Alonso having a DNF nearly there, so that could have been calamities for Fernando, the championship leader, and amazing stuff for me. In the end though, he gets lucky enough to continue on there and chase after Gasly. As we move on then to lap 29, we're catching up now to this pack of blue flag cars. You've got Hartley there, I think a Force India car, Perez I think, and another car I think there's a Haas perhaps, so 3 cars very close together. You can see Leclerc is only a couple of seconds back, you know, 1 second if that, behind me. We've got yellow flags ahead as well, and so it's all kicking off here. This is going to be very awkward with blue flags enabled of trying to get through this traffic, and you can see here this is the yellow flags out for Sebastian Vettel with a puncher, it looks like, I think on the front left there. He's going very slow and we're all catching up to him, so this is going to be very awkward there. I'm going to tiptoe cut round, go very lift off and go very easy down the inside of 2 cars there. Hartley and Vettel, we just about survived that. Magnussen's going to get out of the way, but we're squirming around there. We survived that. We get through unscathed, thankfully, and Leclerc, though, unfortunately also gets through. I say unfortunately because it's great, obviously, that we're in a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo, but Leclerc, I think he's got a lot of good pace here, and obviously, historically, I've not been great in the wet compared to my AI teammates, and Leclerc has a chance to maybe try and topple me and destroy this P1 that I'm in right now, so I was worried about losing ground to him in that traffic, and we didn't really lose ground, but we didn't really gain any either. As we move on now to the second last lap of the Grand Prix, we're going a little bit slow into the hairpin. On the exit, we put down the power a bit too early there. We squirm around massively, and so just really not coping well with this car in these conditions. And Leclerc has a very good run on the second last lap. He goes down the inside for P1. We do battle for first place. We're on the outside. We give him the room. We are trying to put down the power as early as we can. We do get the power down, and thankfully just about get back into first place then, but an actual legit battle for first place between us two Alfa Romeo racing cars there, and that was very tense times because only a lap and a half to go. I saw, first place was flashing away from my eyes for a second. There's Leclerc dabbed down the inside, but thankfully we are going to bring it through on the last lap of the Grand Prix for first place at the Austrian Grand Prix. Alonso down in P4, so that's going to be a decent amount of points on our championship rivals. So the last thing to say is grazie ragazzi, forza Alfa Romeo.
Superb driving. That's the race win.
Brilliant stuff from Sauber today. What a superb victory. Anthony, what do you think made the difference here?
Well, they clearly have a car that comes alive in the kind of conditions we were dealing with today. It's a very balanced package in the wet, and what that means is that the drivers have confidence to attack, and having that confidence gets you on the power earlier, it lets you brake later, and can put you a long way up the road.
So the win then at the Austrian Grand Prix, Alonso P4, so that's going to, well, not go a long way, but it's going to go some way to try and reduce that gap he's got in the championship. You can see he's still over 20 points ahead of us in first place there, so this really is going to be a long grind and a really tough task to actually close down this gap to Alonso here. He's got a very strong hold over the championship. Constructors as well, Renault's still looking good, they're quite consistent, P3 and 4 today compared to our 1 and 2, so we're going to have a few 1-2s, I think, if we want to try and even have a glimpse of catching up to Renault this season there, but all in all, still can't complain. At least we broke that momentum finally, and maybe we can have another run like we had at Azerbaijan and Spain and go on to win the next Grand Prix, which is going to be our home race at Silverstone. So let's hope and knock all the wood and cross all the fingers that can maybe happen there. But we've got that one upgrade coming, so maybe that is the difference. Brakes upgrade maybe helps us, slow the car down a little bit faster around those crucial corners around Silverstone. We'll have to wait and see. But guys, if you did enjoy this episode, then smash that like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoyed today, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.